free to explore the web side of the semantic web. So, in contrast to sort of thinking about databases, complete inference, and complex join tables and so forth, they started thinking a lot earlier about web scale stuff. That is, how do you do imperfect inference that is scalable? How do you deal with imperfection and ontology dynamics? How do you do collaboration without having knowledge engineers sniffing over your shoulder, and so forth? This was the stuff that happened in Europe, and what happened was that you ended up with clear R&D leadership right there, and I think nobody would deny that, but a lag in commercialization. Of course, when I see clear R&D leadership and a lag in commercialization, I think about an opportunity. Okay, so that's sort of where we, sort of rapid trip through the semantic web for the last 10 years. If you ever see somebody wearing a Demel shirt, now you know what it is. So now let's talk about 3 generations of semantic dreams. So at the beginning of the semantic web, and this is, I think, held by almost everybody involved in the program, except for probably Tumors, who's always a mile ahead of the rest of us. The idea was, well, remember, we're building this parallel web, so we'll somehow attach semantic markup to web pages. So that means that we're going to associate that semantic markup with web pages. So that means, basically, we're going to try and translate the web for machines. Still a pretty good vision. You see a lot of RDFA out there. But what that means, then, is that the core problem is really a labeling problem about a free text web. And what happens immediately is you get into these really awful arm wrestling situations about what is the right ontology to do this in. You need some kind of one ontology to rule them all, or at least that's the naive way of thinking about it. We're all naive. And so, and of course, these ontologies get unbelievably complicated because there's upper ontologies and all these weird classes in there that nobody except philosophers knows anything about. And there's only a small number of knowledge engineers who can really understand this and grok this, and they don't even agree with each other, and they're really expensive, and they're really crotchety, and the whole thing is just collapsing under its own weight. By 2009, we realized that that was not the right way to think about it. By 2009, I started to think that the web was actually could be a publishing platform, not just for textual knowledge, page-oriented knowledge, but for formal knowledge, that is, for semantic knowledge as well as pages. So that means that semantic data does not actually have to be associated with a web page. It just has to have a URI, a textual web page. It means there are going to be vast numbers of knowledge publishers. Dave mentioned Same As, which is unbelievably cool service out there. And we can link all this knowledge together with these Same As links. Now, of course, the logicians go completely crazy because the Same As was a very, very pure concept for many logicians, and it's turned out to be impure in implementation, but still it's incredibly cool. And the core problem is really this fractal problem, right, of maintaining, evolving, and partial agreements. It's basically a human social problem. And what that means is that we can start using the emerging social web techniques as Web 2.0 to actually solve it. So let's think about now 3 generations. In that lens, let's think about 3 generations. So the first generation, semantic web. So this is kind of what we tried to use to sell semantic web to the military. Was, well, search is everyone's favorite whipping boy, right? Search always sucks. And so, even when it doesn't, you have to say it does. And so, but this is a really, really old problem right? How do you boost search? Search is fundamentally semantic, it's fundamentally meaning-based. How do you boost it if you actually have explicit semantics that are out there? Well, we think, well, semantics is really the technology underneath effective information retrieval. Then surely semantic web is going to help us here. And the problem is, of course, that it requires really, really powerful NFP to do it, that it's powerful in the sense that it does not exist yet powerful, and nobody's really quite sure when it's going to exist, except it's always about 20 years out. Nevertheless, there's a whole bunch of market players in this, the enterprise document management people, email people, and so forth. And if you think about semantic technology in this area, you think, well, and especially with the benefit of hindsight, well, what are the issues? Why would this not work? I mean, why is this not going to work? And it turns out there's a couple of reasons for this. So one is, this is maybe disputable in this audience, But one is that we're still waiting for, I think, a truly compelling match in this use case between the technical capability that we can deploy with semantic web and the business need, that is, the ways in which you can make money with that deployment. And the reason for that is that the statistical stuff actually works really, really well. Right? The latent semantic indexing page, that actually works really, really well. So the amount of oxygen which you can consume with your brand new semantic web stuff turns out not to be very much.